everyone. All right, let's give people a few minutes just to roll into the class.
Hi, Liam. Happy New Year.
Hey, Suki, Happy New Year. As always, if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like dealt with, feel free to put that in the chat if there's anything you want to talk about at all. This looks like a good group to get started with. Let me get the chat open just in case. All right. So you know the drill. Take a breath. Arrive in this moment. Let your eyes take in the entire room at once. Listen to the sounds of this moment. If you really listen, you'll probably hear a ringing sound. And we're not just talking about tinnitus. There's a sound that consciousness makes as it moves through. And if you listen, you can usually pick it up as a ringing sound. In meditation, we just give it our attention and we follow it. It heightens as you give it your attention. It becomes louder. If you keep going with it, it takes on dimensionality. And when you really, really give yourself to it, it becomes a message you can decode. It becomes a source of inner knowing. Meditation is letting it be exactly what it is. Some of you may also experience it as a light or as a feeling, a vibration on the skin. Those are the three ways that your body can interpret, but they're the same. Can you be quieter than that sound? Can you yield your voice to that sound? Your inner voice, your outer voice. Can you let it go to be a part of something bigger? You can only find it in this moment. The more you reach to the future and the past, the more it disappears. This current of consciousness, this current of power, let your being reach into it. Give yourself to that reach. It's really a release of everything that's pulling against the reach. Your nature is to be given. Your nature is to reach. It's your natural state. It's the comfort you feel in meditation. But to be that reach, to be that flower reaching for the sun, just give in to its directional verticality. That trust. The more you give, the more you have. Give yourself. giving so that it can flow. Don't hang on to any of it. Be its conduit. Nothing to protect. Nothing to defend. No lie to uphold. That part of you that you don't want touched. Let it enter the flow. Let it be a part of this. This is real support. It's not dispersed. It's right here, right now, centered in this moment, and given. Available. if you did this every day? What if you started and ended your day with it? What if you touched base with it midday as well? 10 minutes. To get back in touch with what's real. What exists when you stop manipulating with your thoughts, your words, and your actions. When you stop conjuring things into existence, does the world become better or worse? You're conjuring because you want to try and make it better. But here we are, we've stopped conjuring. Does your world feel better or worse? Does it feel more comfortable or more stressful? Tomorrow you'll go to work and you'll have to interact with people. And you'll start conjuring, manipulating again. I will too. The difference between me and most people is that's not my home base. This is. That's not what's real to me. This is. What makes it real? I don't have to conjure it into existence. It's what remains when I stop forcing it to exist. It's self-existent. That's what you have to come to know. The part of you that doesn't require a dialogue in your head to hold it in place. That's who you are. That's what you are. Your experience of life in that state, that's what life is. And it's good news. And someday, if you make your practice consistent, you'll sit down to practice And a moment of realization will come that flips everything. The foreground becomes the background, and the background becomes the foreground. The unconjured, the unmanipulated becomes what's real. And everything else becomes an aberration of that. You'll still work in the world. You'll still manipulate with your words. Words can only manipulate. But you'll be aware you're doing it, and you'll know why you're doing it. Meditation is a state of non-manipulation. But what it teaches you about life creates a path. And people build religions out of those paths. That path is through the conjured world. You don't need a religion to be in reality. Reality doesn't require a system of rules. You need a path to navigate the illusion. Everyone describes it differently. Better when you can realize it for yourself than when somebody hands it to you like a doctrine. And meditation will lead you to those realizations. But sometimes planting the seed gets you there faster. I think an important seed is to watch every word that comes out of your mouth, every word that goes through your head, and every action you take. And I wouldn't even tell you to limit them greatly in the beginning. I mean, there's no reason to run around doing harm. But that's doctrine. What we want is awareness, realization. I would say do what you do. But as you're doing it, as you're thinking it, as you're saying it, as you're acting upon it, acknowledge that every thought, word, or action is trying to manipulate. Right now, my words have their own intention, and that intention is to shake you loose of some of your stuck asleep parts. Still a manipulation. It's not the manipulation that's bad. But why? Where are you coming from? What are you trying to do? Every word is trying to do something. No word is truth. No one has ever spoken a truth. I've never said anything to you that is true. Words can't give you that. You can remove all words, remove all manipulation, remove all conjuring, and what's left is truth. And you can deepen your ability to experience the depth of that truth just by being with it, reaching. But when you step back into the world, those words are aberrations of that one truth that we're all steeping in. They pinch it. They take little pieces of it to build a case and ignore other things that don't make the case they're trying to make. They lose all of it, the complexity of it. Every good or bad belief system that you have inside of you is a case you've built. Your whole system of good and bad, we've talked about that before. That good and bad is kind of an illusion. Good for who? What's bad for you might be great for the planet. What's good for you might be terrible for someone else. What's good for your relationship with your home might be terrible for the cockroaches you're killing. And I don't mean to make that into a doctrine of don't fumigate. Just recognize the relativity. The truthlessness in this idea of good and bad. In the world of words and thoughts and actions, you're always trying to manipulate something. Why? That's what you need to know. In every moment, you need to know why you're doing it. Am I trying to create good for me? Am I justifying that by ignoring the bad it's creating for someone else? You can also fall in the opposite direction and become a complete martyr. Is that better? Better for who? Worse for who? In this story of life, you'll never get there. That's not really one of your options. It's so intricate, so complex. We mostly just bumble around doing our best. But what you can do is become more and more aware. more and more conscious of what you're doing. And so those are the two parts of spiritual life. You have your experience with truth and your path through the world of untruth. And they're both important. I once had a teacher that did a lot of crazy stuff. She was trying to convince people who didn't want to have children to reincarnate her pets. She had major gender issues and all kinds of difficulties. It's funny, you always think the place you need to wake up is a place where everything is peaceful and perfect. And I don't think anyone can awaken in a situation like that. You pretty much have to wake up through challenge. But she had all these things that she had done, which whenever anybody left that path, especially if they were high enough up, that person left with enough dirt to be a liability. And I remember her saying something to me that actually led to a spiritual realization. I don't think she meant it to. I think she was just covering her ass. But as she had said, just be very careful to only state the things that you had experience with, that you knew and that were true. I think she was underestimating what I'd experienced. But the point was, I remember when I left trying to do that and looking at, okay, so there's all this stuff that happened. What's the truth of it? What's a true statement? And I went through just trying to construct a sentence that was objectively true, that was not just from my perspective. And I could do that, but then I would have to do it from her perspective. There was no way to state the big picture of that truth, because words, by their very essence, are skewed to the individual case that you created. You can try and change the case, you can try and justify things by pulling other things in, and that might make a more fair story, but it still doesn't capture the complexities of everything that happens and why. I don't know if I can really transmit that realization to you. It's something you have to see for yourself. But I remember in that moment realizing that there is no truth in words. There is no such thing as a true statement. This week, I want you to do your meditation. I want you to spend time with what's actually self-existent and true. But I want you to listen to yourself when you're speaking. Watch the things you're saying and just gently wonder, what am I trying to make happen with my words? Am I trying to take someone's attention and turn it into myself? Am I seeking validation for something? Am I trying to make someone stop doing something? Am I trying to make someone do something that I know they don't want to do? I think it'll be eye-opening for you. You know, the one I see all the time is people nagging their partners. And the reason that they're nagging their partners is because they want more love and attention from their partner. But they are just kind of clueless to the fact that the reason the partner can't turn their attention to you fully is because they don't want to be nagged. You know, it's like a lot of times when you realize what you're actually trying to do, you can see that your actual strategy for getting the change you want is completely asinine. But most people just never even question it. They have patterns of things they want. They use their words and their thoughts. Any complaint you have in your head is a part of you that actually believes that if you complain hard enough, you can complain something out of existence in your head. Don't take my word for it. Feel your way into it. And you don't have to just believe me. But this week, entertain the idea that everything you say is a subtle manipulation. And if it is, what are you trying to make happen? The good stuff, the bad stuff. You can't really fix that. But the path of evolving spiritually, where that evolution is really happening, is in your system of reasons for speaking and acting and thinking. That's what every religion is trying to direct. But if you can wake up within that, you can get there much faster. You can learn a lot more from many different religions. If you just can actually access the mechanism yourself. Watch the way you use your speech, especially in your head. Catch yourself building cases for and against people. What's that process like? You know, in my job, it's all that, right? In research, all of your hypotheses need to be justified, and you do that by building a case. And so it becomes easier to see how you've always been doing that. Are there any questions about any of that? Your thoughts, your words, and your actions. For the next week, entertain the idea that every single one of them is trying to make something happen. Ask yourself what and why. Let's go back into meditation for a while. Thanks, Sarah. I'm glad. Step back into the silence. See the whole room. Listen, see, feel. When the mind comes in to take you away from it, just let it go. It's just a manipulation. It knows that if you stay in this space, you're going to expand beyond it. And it doesn't want to deal with the unknown. So it tells you you're hungry, or it tells you about work you have to do. Let it go. Let it be. Let the whole universe be exactly what it is right now. Want to dissolve your work stress? Let it be exactly what it is, with no intent to manipulate it. Marriage stress? They are their own universe. Let them be exactly what they are. And you'll find yourself right out of the story. All that stuff you thought you had to fix, left alone. And better or worse? You are sitting in a sea of unconditional power. And you didn't conjure this. You just stopped covering it up with your conjuring. And it's okay to live your life. But you have to see it for what it is. series of aberrations of truth. Like Play-Doh, like a sandcastle. You learn how to surf that wave between caring enough to make something happen, but also being able to let go of it in a moment's notice if you need to. That balancing act is no problem when the natural state is your home. Work with that this week. Even if you find you're bad at it, go ahead and suck at it for a week. Those seeds have been planted, but you have to water them. And that requires your attention. Any questions before we end for the night? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you, Liam.